Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Knockout Podcast, episode 39 now. I think we're slowly getting there, nearly creeping into the 40s.
Yeah, hello everyone. Getting up there.
Yeah, we are. Hope everyone is good. We're back for another week. We come back after UFC 255, which on paper looked okay. I think there was a few stinkers that we'll get to. And then we look forward to the absolute beauty that is the card coming up this week, which has too many fighters that I've got no idea who they are, which is always a great sign.
Yeah, when fairly well-informed and knowledgeable people don't have a clue who the majority of the fighters are, it's not a good sign. And even then, especially on top of that, the main event is a heavyweight fight, so then you've got to consider that it's looking to be a pretty weak card.
Yeah, well, they've had these lulls a lot, obviously, because they can't get over fighters from outside the US. Well, mainly at least. I'm sure there's a few from other countries coming over, but not en masse. So this is, I guess, what we're dealt with. Hopefully, if they actually do take that 3-week break that we were talking about the other week, there's still seemingly no cards scheduled in that intermediary. So hopefully, they can sort of have a break and then, get slowly sort of bring people back and have enough fights so we don't end up with cards looking like this.
Yeah, pretty much is. It's going to be a long needed, I think it's 4 weeks break it's currently scheduled at. I think they might need all of that just so certain fighters have time to recover, to be able to fight again. And then they can possibly figure out how to get some more international talent on the cards. But yeah, they're going to have to figure something out soon.
How it goes, because obviously they've got, the vaccine's starting to come in, so I wonder whether they'll start reducing sort of the isolation periods. So if they can reduce them, then hopefully we can see guys sort of coming over for a week or for a couple of weeks. But that's all up in the air now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll touch on 255, which happened at weekend, and we'll try and make a fistful of what's coming up this weekend. But yeah, we'll start 255. Should we start at the top?
Yeah, go on. Let's start there.
Okay. So main event: Deiveson Figueiredo, Alex Perez, round 1 submission guillotine choke. He sort of spent a lot of time thinking about how Perez could sort of game plan this, how he could perhaps take it into later rounds or implement some sort of technique, and that was all based on the proviso that he sort of didn't get finished early on, and that is what happened, really.
Yeah, well, but in kind of a different way to what we expected. We kind of thought it'd be the crushing power and athleticism of Figueiredo that did it, but it was just kind of like a crafty and quite nice transition into a guillotine that did it. So that was quite cool. But yeah, the opening of the fight was kind of a bit slow and tentative from both. Both kind of feeling each other out. Figueiredo landed a few nice body kicks. And Perez returned with one of his own. And then Perez went for the single leg, and Figueiredo did showed some crazy balance. Had the leg above his head basically at one point, and still standing on the other leg. Very good. And then went for kind of a flying leg lock to transition out of the single leg. It ended up in a scramble where Perez took the back, and then Figueiredo turned from the back straight into a guillotine, and I thought it was very cool. So yeah, that was nice. Just nice from Figueiredo. Didn't really get to see much of him. Didn't really get to see how this fight kind of played out. It was a bit anticlimactic in that respect. But still, good work from Figueiredo overall, and he emerges basically completely undamaged.
Yeah, it's as you said, we didn't get to see a whole lot, but I think what we've now got a great appreciation of is that sort of more well-rounded aspect of his game. We always coming into it, he did have that guillotine choke up his locker. That's something he has used on previous opponents, but that takedown defense which he showed, but also the ability to sort of scramble, stay up on his feet. I think it was all used pretty well. And I think what we're seeing now is he is not only just like a striker, but also a very well-rounded fighter.
Yeah, he's like, I don't think he's ever really going to be the type of grappler to kind of dominate from top position. He's always going to, or at least he's not going to chase takedowns. But I think he is a opportunistic kind of submission artist. He clearly has based on his athleticism, a very powerful squeeze and ability to finish fights from when given the opportunity. So yeah, he is dangerous and just so many areas around very quickly, which kind of has worked out nicely because the way that both fights worked out meant that this quick turnaround was possible. If either one of the fights was a bit more brutal, that wouldn't have been possible. So yeah, kind of the way it's worked out is kind of handy for the UFC and for Brandon Moreno, I suppose. But yeah, the fight with Royval was weird. He did a good job. I thought Brandon Royval is very active and dangerous in the scrambles, but Moreno actually looked to control him quite well in the scrambles and looked to be coming out on top in that. And on the feet, it was a bit. Royval didn't have as much success pressuring as he has previous opponents. But yeah, then the end is a bit unfortunate. I would have liked to have seen that fight develop a bit more than it did. It just ended in kind of it was like a weird shoulder injury for Royval, I think was what it was concluded.
I don't know whether it was. I haven't heard anything of it. I don't know whether it was like a recurring injury he has, sort of just popping his shoulder out of a socket, or whether it was sort of it happened on that night. But yeah, he dislocated the shoulder and spent the last sort of 10 in place and landed a few quick shots. There were nothing, fortunately. If he could literally just lasted like a couple of seconds more, and he probably could have had it. Pop back in.
Kind of, I said that Perez can do good work in the scrambles and possibly with the wrestling with regards to Figueiredo, but that didn't really work out for Perez. So I think Moreno can working the scramble, but I also feel like Moreno has like a good opportunity on the feet. He can make a game work. He has quite a good jab, and if he sticks to that kind of diligently, it can disrupt Figueiredo a little bit. So there are like paths for Moreno if he blends everything quite well, but it's another one of those that you've kind of just got to think that the athleticism and skill set of Figueiredo is probably gonna give him the edge, and probably at some point he'll land a big shot and finish Brandon Moreno either by knockout or by a choke again. Although Brandon Moreno has never been finished, so he's tough.
Yeah, I mean, he's also not come up against a guy like Figueiredo in terms of that power.
That's true.
There's just such an element of like Figueiredo's like once he's taken that shot, he just sort of his chin is seemingly so good at that weight and against guys of that sort of power that I just wonder that he might just sort of bulldoze his way through Moreno in much the same way that he has done with Benavidez and Perez in terms of he's happy to just sort of like swarm you, and yeah, if you get taken down, he's got the capabilities if it goes there. It's a tough one. I think he represents a tougher task than Moreno than Perez, but I think the early favourite is probably and should be Figueiredo.
Yeah, I'd imagine the only like kind of X factor is like Figueiredo does struggle with the weight. He missed weight in the first Benavidez fight. Struggled with it this time. I think someone said the other day, I said flyweights today are kind of easy. That could possibly affect him.
It's an interesting one. I don't know what if you keep yourself disciplined, that could help you because you can just, I'm sure he will have ballooned up sort of after making the weight. Given that the Moreno age is not like he had sort of like a week that he ballooned up, I don't know, 150 or whatever. You've got to hope he's sort of somewhere around the sort of 45 and he can.
The fight. I think on like the night of UFC 255, I think Dana basically said, in fact, the way that it was phrased was quite weird and creepy. It was like, "I'm not letting him go back to Brazil," and it's like, oh, that's. But he wasn't going to let Figueiredo go back to Brazil, and he wanted to turn him around, and that was on the night that he said that. So yeah, a bit weird. But yeah, quick turnaround. I don't know. You can't really bring it in as a factor because you don't know how it will affect him, but it will be understandable if it does.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see, and obviously, we'll be talking about that sort of in more detail further on pretty soon, in fact. We'll shoot back up to the top of the card. I mean, the co-main was not really much to be desired. We said we might get like a Shevchenko performance in terms of a quick and a quick night at the office for her, but actually we got sort of a Liz Carmouche-esque Shevchenko performance. It's very dull. Grindy. She looked actually quite slow, especially in those early rounds. Slowly sort of found her footing and grinded out what was a pretty unsurprising victory. Nothing great, and certainly not a finest performance, but it's another win in the bag.
Yeah, it was. I mean, this was a little. I mean, it was still quite a bit of a snoozer. Again, I think because we talked about in the preview how risk averse Shevchenko was, and especially after that second round, which is the first round she's lost in about 2 years, I think. The last round she lost before that was the last round of the Joanna Jędrzejczyk fight. So she's already very risk averse, and then she loses. Bit more just a bit of a Shevchenko fight.
Yeah, there's not really much more you can say. I mean, like that first round, she took the takedown. I really don't know how it wasn't stood up. She's like doing nothing on top for like the whole round, just sort of like moving occasionally to signify that she would do damage, but very dull. But what you can expect, I just like to just see her doing more. It's like she knows she can revert back to that like safe, risk averse strategy. Just like surely, I don't know what they're doing in camp, but if the aim is to eventually get that Nunes trilogy, I think she's surely got to be working on more and at least trying more stuff out in a fight, because she can win these fights comfortably against the other women at flyweight. But I just wonder whether her career has just stalled so much because she's not been up against good competition that this Nunes trilogy will just not be as good as perhaps those first two fights.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, the second Nunes fight especially wasn't even that was a bit of a stinker
True.
as well. Like I always like when people talk about that fight, they're always like taking away like a scoring controversy or like, oh, Shevchenko should have won that, and it's like, I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched that fight again. I'm not going to watch that fight again. So I don't know who won. It was years ago. I've forgotten at this point. I have no desire to go back and find out. But yeah, I think what also I find amazing, I can't remember, I think it was in this fight, it might have been in some other Shevchenko fights I've watched recently, is like to preview. But like can work quite well together, but sometimes they're just like a bit crazy.
As soon as Jennifer Maia won the second round, it's like, oh, she's in trouble here. It's like, yeah, sure, but like Jennifer Maia won the round by just holding her against the cage. It wasn't like there was some great tactical outmastering. So let's wait until she does this for one more round, and then maybe we can be sort of like oh, is something going to happen here? It's like you pinned her up against the cage for 3 minutes and did nothing with it. It was hardly
Yeah, I think
anything particularly brilliant.
The way Maia won that round was pin her up against the cage for about 3 minutes, and then Shevchenko went for like an outside trip on Maia, but then tripped herself up, and Maia like maintained top position for the rest of the round. That was how Maia won the round. So like you then saw it. I wish I was watching this live now, because then it was like it showed the live betting odds after the second round, and it was like Shevchenko was like from I think a minus like 2,000, which is essentially like a 20-1 or something. She went from that to like a minus 350, and if I was watching that live, I would have put so much money on that. It's like she's still gonna win. Like, let's be calm. Like Shevchenko from second round was still absolutely going to win, but like I don't know, the betting odds got a bit ridiculous. So you could have put loads of money on that, and it was basically guaranteed income. It would have been beautiful. But there we go. But yeah, the commentary, I think another fight that we might get to, the commentary by DC and Rogan on the Dolby Daniel Rodriguez fight was also quite bad as well. But it wasn't a great night for them.
No, it wasn't. But yeah, we can work our way down to that. Tim Means, Mike Perry. I thought as much as Mike Perry looked awful, and surprise, not having anybody to train with or a coach doesn't work very well for a career in terms of improving. I thought that might be evident, but clearly it needs reminding. But Tim Means, slick. I think that's the way I put it. I mean, yeah, he's not going to do anything, but I got enjoyment of watching sort of an old slick Tim Means just like piece up Mike Perry for 3 rounds. Well, 2 rounds.
I do like Tim Means essentially for that respect. Like Tim Means, I think just kind of looked like Tim Means. He looked maybe a bit more impressive because Mike Perry at this point is just a walking heavy bag. Like he has like no defense. It is just cock the right hand, try and land a big swing. But yeah, Tim Means looked basically like Tim Means. He was jabbing really well. The straights, well, like he'd throw a straight to like the body and then pivot out, which I thought was lovely. When he did that, that was brilliant. But yeah, like, I thought it was just a good fun Tim Means. But yeah, like mostly because of how bad Mike Perry is at this point. Like
yeah, I mean, he was throwing like arm shots by the end of it. It was awful.
Yeah, he's getting battered and didn't know what to do, and he is actively regressing in terms of his skill set.
Yeah.
And like Tim Means even like battered him in the clinch as well. Means did good work in the clinch, and Mike Perry used to be very scary in the clinch from what I remember. And now he's just non-existent there. So I don't know. Yeah, it's
a shame because it's like I never liked Mike Perry, and I still don't. But in and around those sort of Felder, Griffin, Cerrone, Alex Oliveira, Vincente Luque, that sort of like 18 to 19 Perry still wasn't great, but put on some good fights. Like
the Vincente Luque
that's what
fight
I sort of
was honestly the Vincente Luque fight was probably one of his best performances. Like he looked very good against Luque, which is quite like so annoying because I really like Luque, and Luque took a ton of damage in that fight. So it's like Mike Perry decides to be good for one fight only, and it's to hurt one of my favorite fighters. It's like fuck you, awful.
But yeah, no, it is a shame because there's good, there's fun fights at welterweight for him, but not if he's going to look like that.
Yeah. To be honest, like at this point, considering like I don't know, I feel like he's on a losing streak. But considering how his skills are regressing, he's lost quite a lot of his last few, and kind of his issues outside the cage. Although he did beat Mickey Gore, didn't he? But he also looked terrible. So what does that mean? That like if he got cut, I wouldn't care. Like I'd be okay with him getting cut. So
it's like You're not gonna. I mean, if he is someone who commands a sort of high salary just off the name the name and the brand that he supposedly carries, but you can't. Well, I wouldn't think they could justify paying. He's a guy who probably gets paid. I'm pretty sure he got upwards of sort of like £100 show, £100 to win at one of his like more recent, or like 90 one of his more recent fights. That's quite near. That'll put him in certainly the top percentile of UFC fighters with that sort of pay packet, and he's certainly not a guy that is giving back enough to justify that. I think I would imagine in the UFC's eyes. So I don't know.
I can't imagine. And also like he's billed clearly like the only thing he's got is like big power, and he's a big knockout artist. But at this point, he hasn't knocked anyone out in over 3 years. So it's like, why are we hanging on to this like idea that Mike Perry is going to be something good or worth keeping around even? I have no idea. It's not good. Get rid of him for all I care, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. Oh God, Caitlin Chikagan, Cynthia Calvillo. What? I mean, I was by no means suggesting that Cynthia Calvillo was going to beat Valentina Shevchenko, but like, can we just keep people away from Caitlin Chikagan? Like, she's just I don't know what Calvillo was doing, just staying on the edge of on sort of the outer range of Chikagan when like she's fine to just like punch and do that sort of like Serena Williams scream when she throws a shot. But it's like, can we just avoid giving anyone like with like at least like a 5% interest to Caitlin Chikagan so she can just like annoyingly beat them and just push them back down the rank?
Yeah. I full disclosure, I watched very little of this fight. I think I watched kind of like the opening minute or two and was like, I see how this is going. And then like skipped to the end, watched the last minute and was like, okay, yep, 30-27
I
Chikagan.
genuinely would love to know what the game plan was from Calvillo, because like who in the corner, was like, right, we've got Chikagan, here's the game plan, stay out of range. just try and fight a distance fight with Chikagan. It's like, there was no urgency in the corners between the rounds. I'm like, who came up with this plan? I don't know what they were thinking, but Chikagan just continues to just sort of annoyingly linger at the top of that flyweight. I mean, she's not going to get another title shot, but she can at least stop everyone else getting one.
And then, like, if she stops enough people, like, I don't know, do they close down the division or something?
Oh, yeah, can we please?
Well, she did just get stopped by Andrade. Andrade is going to get a title shot, and that is the most interesting fight.
That's the thing, yeah, surely. You wondered if Calvillo got this win, perhaps she could have maybe launched a push for it, but it looks at this point Andrade, maybe there's like an Andrade Calderwood fight, a number one contender. I've no idea.
Yeah,
I mean, my interest for flyweighters, at least women's flyweighters, at an all-time low.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it peaked at the Shevchenko-Jędrzejczyk fight, and it's been just consistently downhill from there.
Yeah,
a little bit of a bump when Andrade entered the division.
I mean, the only thing that can save this now is like like a fifth round Andrade TKO like slam against Valentina Shevchenko just out of nowhere.
It would have to be a slam, because I remember when Rose lost, because Rose has got like the type of fans that like when she got slammed were like very upset about it and were like crying out to make like slamming illegal. It was hilarious. And Shevchenko has those type of like fanboys as well.
It would be amazing.
So that if she got slam knockout, I want
like 4 10-8 rounds and then just a Andrade slam.
Oh, beautiful! I want to see it. I need that to happen. It unfortunately probably won't. Andrade is a fun and good fighter, but like stylistically, Shevchenko's a fairly bad fight for her. Although one of the weaker areas of Shevchenko's game kind of is her takedown defense a little bit. So it's possible, but still, I'm not massively interested in it.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll rattle through the rest of these. Paul Craig, Shogun Hua. I mean, I'm liking the Paul Craig takedowns, but boy, was this a depressing finish. Shogun just clapping his hands in some sort of weak old man submission.
This was I think how we previewed it as like it's going to be a similar fight to the first fight, except Shogun's a year older, so going to be far more deteriorated. That was kind of like not necessarily. Shogun looks a lot more fragile, but Paul Craig also didn't stay on the feet for that long, just him down at will, basically.
I was liking those takedowns. It's certainly something that I don't think he's gone to enough before. I mean, I don't really know. I'm sort of.
Well, I think he goes
confused with Paul Craig now.
I remember in the Kennedy, I can't remember his last name.
Oh God, I know the
Kennedy fight where he had like the bloody knees.
Maybe.
Yeah, but like Paul Craig did go to the takedowns, he just couldn't get them because the guy's massive, and like he had all the red bloody knees by the end of it, from failing to get takedowns, and then got a last minute triangle because he's Paul Craig and he does stuff like that. But the takedowns were nice, but who knows if that's a factor of the fact. Basically, because Shogun can barely move anymore, is probably one of the reasons why those takedowns are so easy.
So we'll see. I mean, he's 3-0-1 in his last 4. I mean, I know none of them are against particularly interesting opposition, but there is going to become a time when he is going to get thrown up against. Surely he's got to fight someone above him, or at least in the rankings. And as much as I don't particularly care, I'm intrigued to see how he does.
I think
he's Scottish,
Yeah, well, there will come a time when he gets to fight someone in the rankings, and when that time comes, he will get knocked out, or he will win with a last-minute triangle. But no, he is kind of improving, and I do quite like Paul Craig. So yeah, I wish him luck.
Yeah, we'll quickly touch on the prelims. Joaquin Buckley versus Jordan Wright. That's just someone that was just fed to Joaquin Buckley, and he looked good, although looked quite small. I wonder whether I haven't actually looked at his career, but has he fought a welterweight before? He has fought a welterweight.
I think it's like he looked short. He's very broad.
Big.
He's big, but yeah, he did look a bit short, but it didn't really matter. But that's Jordan Wright although he was undefeated, but I think just a little inexperienced.
Yeah. But yeah, we will see where that goes. Antina Shevchenko defeating Anna Lipski just looked like a slightly worse version of Valentina, to be honest.
Pretty much.
She got battered by Chikagian on the floor and was like, right, let's become a boring wrestler like my sister. And yeah, that's what happened.
Pretty much, yeah. Not much to say about that. But yeah, Nicholas Dalby versus Daniel Rodriguez it was a good fight, but also quite infuriating from my standpoint, because it was very good. Nicholas Dalby on the outside, kind of like kicking very well, and coming in with kind of like the right hand, leaping in with that as well. But then by the end of the first round, Daniel Rodriguez looked that he'd solved Nicholas Dalby, press forward, throwing combination, keep him pinned against the cage, and you'll batter him. And then he just didn't do it. So for the rest of the fight. So it's like I don't know. You had it there. You had the strategy, Daniel Rodriguez. You didn't do it. What are you playing at? So yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed this fight, but it was also quite annoying from that standpoint.
And not helped by the commentary. Who were just in utter disbelief that Nicholas Dalby won that fight. And to be honest, I thought Nicholas Dalby won that fight in the end. Yeah.
And it is Daniel Rodriguez's fault. I can understand why they might be annoyed at the 30-27.
Yeah, because I think he definitely won the first.
Yeah, he definitely won the first. By the end, he was piecing Dalby up. But yeah, although maybe every judge gave Dalby the first round. Maybe we're remembering it wrong. I don't know.
Maybe
quite strange. I seem to remember that Dalby was getting fairly beat up by the end of that, and that outweighed everything that Dalby had done up to that point. But then, yeah, the rest of the fight was just a bit. Dalby came back. He rallied. Good on him for that, I suppose. But yeah, good fun, but bad commentary and an okay-ish decision. I think it probably could have gone either way.
But yeah, certainly not the robbery that was suggested by Cormier and co. So yeah, that was largely 255. Good, not the best. Now I'm sort of talking over it. It was not the greatest. Certainly nothing pay-per-view worthy. But in these times, we'll take what we can get.
Yeah, we do. We do that.
And that is especially pertinent as we move to next week.
Oh God!
Wow. I mean, I've just refreshed it again. Honestly, not from a point of view of not wanting to talk about these people. I have literally nothing to offer you because I don't know who most people are. We talked briefly before we came on. Michael Baeza versus Takashi Sato. Have you said that could be a fun one? Michael Baeza had a fun fight with Matt Brown, sort of at the start of this lockdown quarantine events. I remember that was quite a fun fight. So that could be a fun fight against Takashi Sato. We mentioned Spike Carlisle because he's holds some particularly unsavory views, which we won't delve into too much. He's had some fun fights before, so Spike Carlisle versus Bill Algeo could be a fun one. But honestly, outside of that, there's honestly no name value outside of literally the co-main event and the main event.
There is almost. Oh no, that was on the net. I thought Eamon thingy Faraz Zahabi's brother was on it, but I think that was another card I was looking at. So no, we don't even have that. We don't have anything. Ashley Evans Smith, like I know her, but like she's not very interesting or good. So there we go. There is almost nothing.
Yeah, I mean, should we move to the co-main? I mean, that's perhaps where we get some name value, if not perhaps a particularly enticing matchup, which I don't think it's going to be. Anthony Smith versus Devin Clark. Anthony Smith coming off his loss to Rakic, which was a particularly uninspiring performance, and then his particularly brutal defeat at the hands of 40-year-old Glover Teixeira. It seems like after his brief sort of flirt with the upper echelons
with being good,
with the sort of light heavyweight division, which managed to get a win against a faded Gustafsson. He is sort of slowly but surely being drawn back to the pack of light heavyweight mediocrity.
Yeah, pretty much. Just like Anthony Smith, I think, is the kind of fighter that really needs to sort of convince himself to fight. Like it's hard to explain, but like he just can't. He's not that good, or like he can be good, but he really needs to be in the right headspace to be good, and he's really not in the right headspace as of late. Like since kind of the end of the Glover Teixeira fight, like which he started fairly well in, he kind of gassed himself out, and then since then, it's been months of just really not being good. So I don't know. You don't really know what Anthony Smith is going to turn up against Devin Clark. If he turns up at his best, I'd imagine he should win. But who knows? Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, with Devin Clark, I remember the Alonzo Menefeld fight not with particularly fond memories.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get with Devin Clark, and it's largely going to be a very grindy, workman-like, industrious, dare I say it, somewhat dull fighter.
How dare?
I think you have to go back to 2014/15 for his last finish. 2016 he beat in the UFC. It's just been sort of grindy, unanimous decision victories against no one particularly good. His last two are coming against Daquan Townsend and Alonzo Menefeld. So,
I also think Devin Clark, was the guy looking at his record. He went for a big swing on Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz like dodged the punch and went straight into a rear naked choke, which was hilarious. So yeah, we've got that. That's the kind of talent we're dealing with.
So yeah, not the best. It's like this is very much one for Anthony Smith to prove to us at least he's at least not that far down the light heavyweights, because if the Anthony Smith that faced Rakic and Glover Teixeira shows up, I could honestly see him just Devin Clark just like annoyingly grinding his way to sort of a 29-28 unanimous decision, and Anthony Smith not really doing enough to shake him off.
Pretty much. It's like this is like the last chance for Anthony Smith to show that he's not like completely shot, and if he loses this, like it's just Anthony Smith may as well retire, to be honest. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but I don't know. It is just it's a chance for Smith to show that he can still be at least a little bit good.
Yeah. And I mean, with that sort of compelling analysis and excitement, we move to the main event: Curtis Blaydes versus Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis, who is still the fourth best heavyweight in the UFC. The more I say it, the more it depresses me. Yeah. Who is, he's on a 3-fight win streak. Though, the Ivanov and Latifi fights weren't great. Alexa Olenek won sort of a second round TKO. And against a Curtis Blaydes, who a beating on Alexander Volkov for large parts of that fight. Also had an impressive performance against JDS and victories against Justin Willis and Shamil Abdurakhimov, I think his name is.
Yeah.
We know where this fight is going to go. Blaydes is obviously the wrestler. I think I saw someone is averaging like 7.5 takedowns per 15 minutes, or per fight or something. So we know where Blaydes is going to want to take this fight. He obviously had problems with his cardio against Volkov fading towards the end, but also Derrick Lewis is the kind of guy that if he spends three rounds sort of being leaned upon on the ground, you could see him also fading. So I'm sort of thinking I want this to be done by round 3, otherwise it could be very ugly.
Yeah, pretty much my thoughts exactly. I mean, we say that for all heavyweight fights. We want a quick finish, otherwise it is just heavy breathing for the remainder of the fight. But I do appreciate that Derrick Lewis is on a one-man mission to just prove that wrestling don't be real. He's fought like 3 fairly competent grapplers in his last 3 fights. And he's just like, I'm just going to stand up. You can't do anything. I don't think he'll be able to do that against Curtis Blaydes, who is massive and at least the best top controller out of all of the people that he's faced so far. But if he can do it, it'll be very funny, and I will quite enjoy it.
I don't know what the odds are on a Blaydes takedown within the first sort of 30 seconds, but I can certainly see that.
He's probably the better striker as well.
Technically, at least, definitely.
Technically, if less powerful. So, like, it should be It's Blaydes' fight to lose.
Yeah.
And through kind of like whatever ridiculous stuff Derrick Lewis can summon up, which is always a possibility.
Got to hope that Blaydes has worked on that sort of cardio. He said after the Volkov one that he wasn't in as good a shape as he'd have wanted to be. He's had 4 months since that last fight, so you've got to hope that that's something he's worked on. But if he has worked on that, barring a sort of Derrick Lewis versus Volkov-esque sort of one lucky punch, I can sort of see this going the same way as like Daniel Cormier, Derrick Lewis, in the sense that he just sort of like rides out the early Derrick Lewis energy, takes him down, wears him down, and sort of either locks in some sort of choke or just sort of uses those elbows and gets him out of there.
Yeah, I think that if Blaydes consistently takes him down, he will finish Derrick Lewis, because Derrick Lewis is like on the feet, he will keep trying and keep swinging, but when he's tired, and especially when he's on the ground, he will kind of just fold. Kind of like how Rumble Johnson a little bit used to be. He will just be like, okay, I want to be done now. I'm going to be done. So I think if it gets to like round 3, Blaydes is still fresh enough. He'll finish Lewis, I imagine, either through a submission or through elbows. So hopefully we don't have the heavy breathing in round 5, but you never know. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's like there are various different reasons to watch fights. Like some fights you are like just pure excitement. You want to appreciate like the back and forth chaos. Some you watch for the technical brilliance, and some you watch just because they're quite funny. And this is definitely one for me that I'm going to watch because I think it'll be quite funny, and quite exciting still, but also quite funny. So yeah, that's what I'm excited about in this.
Yeah, we'll see how all that goes. I'll be intrigued to see how that fight goes. Hopefully, we don't get heavy breathing that we fear. and to be honest, well, as we said, there's not really a whole lot we can talk about from that card. So unless you have anything else to mention, Jack.
No, I don't know if we did mention the fact that Yan versus Aljo has been moved to a few weeks later. That's a bit disappointing.
That's a shame. I imagine maybe scheduled for 258 maybe in February or perhaps I don't know what the UFC's policy still is on sort of having non-title fights headline a bill over a title fight. I would imagine for a McGregor Poirier, who would certainly headline over a Jan Sterling. So perhaps,
I imagine
perhaps they'll
McGregor,
move it to 258 in February.
Possibly, if McGregor's on a card, he is headlining. Basically, it's just how it is. He headlined. Him versus Nate Diaz was a headline over. I think it was Misha Tate, Holly Holm. I think it headlined over, and that was a title fight. So if McGregor's on a card, he's headlining. So they might move it to 258, or they'll just put. They could possibly put it as the co-main, depending. I don't know.
We'll see.
But it's a bit of a shame because I was very excited for that fight. Would have been a really fun fight.
Yeah, no, that is a cracker when it does come around.
But we'll just have to wait a little bit. That's fine.
Exactly. If that's, I think that's about all we need to discuss this week. So thank you for listening, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week for a bit of recapping whatever we can do, and look forward to what I assume is probably not a great card in Hermanson Holland, but we'll raise our spirits. I'm sure there'll be something we can talk about.
Yeah.
All right. See ya.
See ya.